Araro, araro, araro. Araro, araro, araro. Araro, araro, ariraro. Araro, araro, ariraro.
அப்பா அலை கதை சொல்றேனா?
ஓ சொல்றேனே.
RadheKrishna. In the previous two stories, we have been following very interesting ideas and experiences through Lord Hanuman. But at the end of last story, we had a very interesting opening. I had mentioned that there is an alternative twist to the way in which Hanuman was brought up to actually volunteer for the devotional act of going and communicating to Devi Sita that Lord Ram is on his way to defeat Ravana and to regain Sita along with him to go back to Ayodhya. If you remember, as a summary from the previous story, the whole setup was around all of the monkeys and other devotees of Lord Rama who had assembled together almost at the tip of India about trying to find who is the most able and eligible person to go to Sri Lanka, Lankapuri, and perform this task and come back. At the end of Jambavan recollecting Hanuman's childhood and the story of Hanuman and how he got all his powers, Hanuman was happy and elevated to actually be able to volunteer for this task. But there is actually a concurrent story that goes along with Hanuman getting all these powers as a child. Now remember, when Hanuman was hit by Indra's thunderbolt, the Vajrayudha, he was a very, very small baby. A very small baby. So when he got all these powers and came back to consciousness, he did not know how to handle all these powers. He's a very sweet, a very dignified and respectful child, but since he was a child, he still did not know how to handle himself and take care of all the abilities that he has. So what he used to do is, playfully, not intentionally, he used to go around and tease all the sadhus and rishis who are doing meditation, who are doing yajna, who are doing tapas. Now, initially, the sadhus and rishis did not mind because Hanuman was just a small child. But eventually, this teasing and being playful became too common and it started disturbing the rishis and sadhus too much that at a certain point they had no other option other than try to stop this behavior of Hanuman. Now, Hanuman was still a child, but somehow the sadhus had to try to put an end to this kind of disturbance. So they gave a mild curse and they said, "Oh baby Hanuman, you are possessed of great abilities, of great strengths, of great capabilities and great talents. However, you do not know how and when and where to use it. So you are misusing it, although playfully, although as a child, you're still misusing it. And this is causing great disturbance to everybody around in the society. So therefore, may it be that you will only remember your powers, your abilities, and your talents when somebody recollects and retells the story of your childhood. Every time somebody is able to recollect the story, then you would be able to realize and utilize your talents, your powers, and your abilities. This is very interesting because until Jambavan had narrated Hanuman's childhood story, Hanuman was actually keeping quiet. But once Jambavan had narrated the story, now Hanuman was extremely aware and realized his abilities and was ready to go and contribute and act to Lord Sri Rama's request. In a different way, this is also a very interesting story because what the sadhus and rishis did is not actually limit the abilities of Hanuman, but instead they had a very simple solution in such a way that Hanuman's talent and abilities and capabilities would never affect the society or himself in a negative manner. So they said indirectly that when God Himself wishes that you display your actions, your abilities, and your powers or your talents, then either directly God Himself or God through His devotees will find a way to connect with you and bring out these abilities from inside you. In the first story, if you remember, we had used a beautiful quarter of a shloka which went as Vidya Dadati Vinayam, which says, education leads us to be humble. In the last two stories, story 2 and story 3, we actually beautifully understand the next quarter of the shloka, which says Vinayaad Yaathi Paathrathaam, which in English translates to humility leads us to be eligible. In a sense, it is Hanuman's humility to let everybody participate and to also devote his abilities to God so that God can choose when I should act and to what extent. It is that humility that made him the most and the only person eligible amongst all the other people gathered at the occasion at the outset next to Angada and Jambavan. No wonder Hanuman, who had gone through this experience, is able to guide his younger brother Bhima, who was also going through the same problem. He did not know when to use and when not to use his abilities or power. He was blinded by his abilities. This is such a beautiful lesson for all of us. No matter how many abilities we have, no matter how much we are capable, it is very important for all of us to devote all these to God so that He will choose what is the right time, right place, right occasion, and right extent to which our abilities need to be expressed. Jai Hind, Bharat Mata ki Jai, Radhe Krishna.